Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Comedian's Tea Party with Deaves. And this episode I've got Daniel Triscott. Now immediately I will apologise for the sound quality of the recording. Basically I met up with Dan when I went down to Cornwall for a gig for Graham Wilkes, and when I arrived I realised that I'd left my laptop at home, so recording quickly became impossible, and I realised that I had my little backup recorder, so I recorded on it, and it's come out all right, but it may not be to its sort of usual quality, but I hope that's okay. I hope you're all well. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year's. I did, thanks for asking. We had a lovely chat. We were talking about the history of gunpowder, as you do, because that is related to the tea. Speaking of the tea, thank you very much again to the Clean Tea Company, whose tea I finally drank, and it is genuinely very, very tasty indeed. So thanks for that. Go and check them out. I'll pop the social links for them on the podcast description, so go and have a look at that. Additionally, as well as the sound issues, we were basically just in the green room of the gig, and there's a little lift in there where people sort of come up and they come through, so we got interrupted a few times, including one guy who was a lovely guy, but he came up and chatted for a good 5 minutes, and in the middle of that he noticed that we were recording a podcast, and then continued for another 3 minutes. I've left a little bit of that in just for comical effect, because it was a surreal moment. Oh, I said during the podcast that I'd let you know how the gig went. It was good. It was very fun indeed. So yeah, worth the drive. A hell of a drive. And thanks again to Ian Bowden for putting me up in his house. That was very kind. Yeah, we talked many things. We talked various acts who are able to play completely unplayable gigs, one of whom I've got coming on soon, the other of whom I will try to get soon. We talk about the Fringe and how they're on the Cornish Comedians Showcase, and that is worth mentioning for the Australian listeners, because I know there are some of you. Right, without further ado, I'll let you get on with the podcast. I hope you enjoy it. See you after. Right, it's going to sound like a slightly weird recording on this because, like a classic Deaves move, I have left half of the equipment at home and I am in Cornwall and it is not convenient for me to go back. So we're recording on my backup recording device, and I think hopefully it's going to be okay, but largely what I'm saying is hello and welcome to the Comedian's Tea Party with Deaves, with me, Deaves, and this week, I say this week, it's been a little while since I recorded a proper episode, but this episode I've got the special guest of Daniel Triscott.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. I'm excited to be here after learning about it about half an hour ago.
Yeah, it's the best time to learn. It's just, yeah. I mean, we got some food coming, but so I've driven down to Cornwall for a gig. And Graham, the guy who booked me for the gig, forgot that I asked him to do the podcast, and he's otherwise busied himself. But he's a busy man. He's going to come in and bring us some burgers in a bit, and then, well, I'm having a burger, you're having a vegan pie.
Yes.
Are you a vegan?
No, but I just thought I'd embrace. Just embrace what they got to offer.
Take the food away from the vegans.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, are you a tea man?
I drink a lot of tea, but in terms of quality, I don't. Like, I'm not a connoisseur.
Yeah.
I have what people throw at me, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So if it's anywhere between PG and raspberry, this, that and the other, I'll just drink anything.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fine.
Is it warm? I'll have it.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not particularly a tea connoisseur, but that was sort of why I wanted to start the podcast.
Yeah,
so that I could, not to become a connoisseur, but just so I could have more tea.
Yeah.
And it's worked because I got sent loads of free tea.
Nice one.
Like, I don't know if you've seen that box, but
it's absolutely massive.
Yeah, there's about 500 tea bags in there.
Well, yeah, I was looking through. Is it loads of different colours? Because there's a fair few twinings I can see.
Yeah,
and then you've got Clean Tea Company as well.
Yeah, Clean Tea Company, which is what we're going to be drinking today, because the poor guy, he keeps emailing me to say, have you tried the tea yet? And I've been so busy with sort of getting engaged, as I mentioned on the last episode, thank you very much, and buying a house and that. I've just not recorded any episodes. So, and I promised him the next episode I record will have the Clean Tea Company tea, and that's what we're doing. And this one is Moroccan mint gunpowder green.
When you said that, it really, the word gunpowder there has really thrown me.
As
to what this is going to be like.
I read the box ages ago when he sent it to me, and I haven't read it since, and I've just read it, and it's frightening. Hopefully it doesn't hurt. Now, if you had to guess the ingredients, we briefly discussed it a minute ago, but if you had to guess the ingredients, what would you guess?
Well, mint initially. Must be.
What percentage?
Give
Give it a smell, right, and see if you can guess what percentage.
what percentage of smell is going through?
It smells very minty.
It does, but I can imagine that's like it's deceptive because you probably don't need a lot of mint.
It is deceptive, and it's less than I thought it was going to be. It's 3%.
I was going to say like 10.
Yeah, 3%.
So it's not even that.
And guess how many other ingredients there are?
What are the number of ingredients?
Yeah.
4 other ingredients.
Incorrect. It is one other ingredient. We've got 97% of Chinese pinhead gunpowder green tea. Now,
So 90% of this, 97% of this tea is another tea.
well, yeah, no, it's 3% peppermint.
Yeah.
97% gunpowder green tea.
Right. So that's the type of tea that's making it up.
But it's got 3% Moroccan peppermint. I assume it's Moroccan peppermint because it's called Moroccan mint.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, because that's when they said it's Moroccan mint gunpowder, I thought surely if gunpowder they'd be Chinese, but then if it's Chinese gunpowder green tea.
Oh yeah, Chinese pinhead gunpowder green tea. So, that is.
So that was my initial concern.
Is gunpowder a Chinese thing then?
Yeah, they invented it. Oh god, like something like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the bloke who invented it, or maybe when in the early days when it was invented, one of the guys, I don't know how true this is, but it was he basically strapped a load of fireworks to the legs of a chair because he wanted to get to the moon. So he thought he could fly up. He obviously had no idea how far the moon was away.
Yeah.
So he just thought, it's probably just up there. So he strapped a load of like fireworks or just lit a load of gunpowder underneath his chair, and that was the end of that guy.
Oh wow, that's not smart. Interestingly, that reminds me that I recently, because I got bored, looked up what "hoisted by your own petard" means. Mm. Do you know what it is?
Well, I don't know the origin or anything like that of it.
Well, do you know what a petard is?
I'm sure someone did tell me this, but I've totally forgotten.
It's a type of firework. Like a cross between a bomb and a firework. So it's like a...
Well, hold on. I mean, a firework very much is a bomb in some sense.
Well, yeah. So it's like a big version. Just a massive sort of firework, like basically
so
a bomb.
it's like a big thing that you can set on fire.
Yeah.
To produce.
And I think it's a weapon,
colours.
and I can't remember if if it had a hook on it but like...
Yeah, I was going to say, what the hoisting element got to do with it?
So there's like a chain with a hook on it, and I think they used it to sort of launch stuff in the air. That's my understanding of it. It's a very brief sort of Wikipedia description.
Well, I was going to say, who did you hear this from?
And to be hoisted... it's Wikipedia, so it's probably wrong. Probably completely made up and nothing to do with anyone. But so that is my sort of assumption, is that they used it to launch like weapons and stuff in the air. That's why they had the hook on it. And if you set it off and it took off and it caught you'd be hoisted by your own petard.
Oh right, so your attempt to try and do something positive
or negative, because it's a weapon.
but towards the goal of doing something. I don't think
weapons are largely positive, but
they're positive possibly for what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
So if you mess that up, you then end up sort of like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Exactly that. Yeah.
So I've just been taking a few sips of this tea.
Go on. Is it good? We've got to talk about it quickly because I may run out of battery on the recorder because I've left everything at home, and so we'll get recorded what we can. But go on. What do you think?
It's very nice. It's very nice. It's the thing I notice with teas a lot of the time. And I don't know if it's just the sheer heat of them. Yeah. But I must have totally destroyed my nose and throat through tea.
Really?
I just drink tea insanely hot. That's all I ever do. I like the warm feeling of it.
I do not.
And because this is minty as well, it's really it's provided a lot of warmth and it's really cleared out my nose. And I've noticed that immediately with a really nice mint taste.
Yeah.
This is a really good tea.
I've not tasted it yet because it's so hot. But the smell alone has, I haven't breathed like this for years.
But for this it's like, for me, I don't know if it's cooled down or it's just, I just like it that it's heat, whatever. But it's got right, and so the back of the throat, it's just sort of like got a warm sort of last almost like nodule of it, and then the sort of the backdraft of the mint has come up through my nose, like not too powerfully or anything, but you can smell it after you've tasted it in the back.
Yeah, it just sits there in your throat, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I've just said for the listeners, I've just tried it. That is nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there you go. Thank you. Do you know what's terrible is I'm sure he's told me his name. I can't remember it. I'll just keep referring to him as the lovely guy from the Clean Tea Company because he's a lovely guy.
Well, I think there's worse descriptions for people.
Yeah. I'm gonna make this as subtle as possible and look it up while I'm.
Well, this is. I mean, to be honest, you're entering into my world where for the gig we're doing tonight, Si's on first, and I'm hosting, and obviously put together by Graham Wilkes, running it and stuff. But I just MC a lot of his gigs all the time. And luckily, I know pretty much everyone on the bill, except for Pierre. Pierre Hollins on last. But I know the name really well. But the number of gigs where he's got like new people, like with the one down in Toast, where there's new people on doing it for the first time, and they'll have like ridiculous. Oh, sweet. Yeah,
food's alright.
Burger that way.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.
This way. Awesome. Cheers, man. Ooh, nice one.
Thanks, man.
Just rather than get a cutlery. Oh yeah, cheers, mate. Awesome. Right. Well, this is basically just a podcast with someone's dinner. Yeah, we're just drink some tea, eat some dinner. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the number of times that I do gigs and like first timers who have the most ridiculous names, like, and because you don't know them, it doesn't roll off the tongue or anything like that, and you've got to remember like 10 people that you're hosting. Oh God, it's the worst. Yeah. And I've never, and doing it a lot, you'd think you get better at it, but I've just never sort of acclimatised. Have you gigged much in London? Not as having host stuff, but yeah, I've done a few things with like about 12 people on the bill and the rest of it. Yeah, cheers, man. Yeah, last time I gigged in London, where was I? Like Camden Comedy Club or for like Rat Pack. It's not too bad there, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice. No, I mean it's a really good night. But like they don't have 70,000 acts on. Yeah. I think there was only 3 on, plus the MC, so 4. I once did a gig in London. Yeah. And I don't want to say who it was because the guy that booked it is a really lovely guy and I get on with him really well. Yeah, but he was bragging at the end that he had, I think it was 38 acts. What? And it was too many, and it ended at nearly midnight, and the pub kicked us out by the end. They came in, turned the lights on and said, you've got to leave. Sorry, even if people are doing 5 minutes, that is way too Some many. Of us were doing 10. Jesus Christ. Yeah. There was one. But I had a go at him, and that is not in my nature to ever go at someone for a gig. But I was just like, this is ridiculous. You can't do that, man. Like we'd driven quite sort of, it's an hour and a half drive to get there. It was an hour and a half drive to get home. We didn't get home till 1 a.m. We should have been home by midnight. Christ. Yeah. Well, it's like there was a gig. I just got called up to MC last minute because the guy who regularly does it. I can't remember what he's booked up for, but it's one in Exeter, which is in the Barnfield Theatre, or it's like theatre, but they've got like a smaller room downstairs, as opposed to the big, massive theatre. Right. And that can get loads of people in anyway, even if it's a smaller room. Maybe about, I think 50 or 60 were there, but something along those lines. For effectively new material, open mic type stuff. And on the bill was, I think, 16 acts. Wow. And so it's like 5 break 6. So they even ended with the most. And some people are doing 5, some people are doing 10s. And I don't know what people tend to do when they're emceeing. I tend to just go on and just talk. And talk to the audience. And just, if you get enough of a laugh, if it's between 30 seconds or 2 minutes, it can vary a lot, but as soon as you've got something that's good enough to lead the next act in, you just go bang. And certainly if there's a lot of newer acts on, you think, they just need a bit of a leg up, or they just, you need to wipe the slate clean because they've just, they've been... The comedic palate cleanser. Yes, and they've been, certainly on this gig, there was a few sort of edgelords who were really burning the room, let's put it that way. Often the case. Yes, and you should give more in London. I've seen that in London a couple of times, actually, but so it was a lot of acts, and then I looked over at the sheet that the guy had written up for all the acts and where their slots were and their time things, and it said like 8 o'clock to 8:05 MC, then 8:05 to 8:10 first act, then 8:10 to 8:15 second act. So there was everything was to the minute. There was no in betweens. So I didn't even know this until like say maybe the second section or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the guy promoting it was telling me, "Oh, can you not do anything in between acts so we can just get this on the road?" And it's like, sorry, you just
acts, mate.
Well, or why have you got me at all? Why not just have them introduce each other?
Yeah.
If it's a case of just bringing them on,
Yeah.
I don't know why you've put me or you couldn't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, it's totally like you've got to give some breathing room and all the rest of it. That one went on till like something like 11:30, 20 to 12,
Jesus.
and it started off late as well. And there's a bunch of people driving back from like Wales.
Good grief.
Yeah, so they had to go for ages and ages and ages. And it was just and with a lot of newer acts on. It wasn't even like it was long in the tooth pros who just needed to try out any 10.
Yeah.
To see what works and blah blah blah. So there's stuff coming around the corner in terms of quality. It was like pulling teeth towards the end. It was really, and most of the people by the last section left because it was just dragging on so much. And it's just
the thing is, like, even the greatest of pros, if a night goes on that late, they're going to have a hard time. It doesn't matter how good they are. They walk out and a room of people sitting there going, "I should be in bed."
Totally.
Nobody's going to have a good time.
And it's not even like it's like a Friday or a Saturday where they don't have to care.
Yeah.
If this is like I think it might be a Wednesday or something, but where it's a midweek thing, everyone, they're not going to be drinking heavily, or they're not going to be so relaxed that time constraints aren't a problem for them.
Yeah.
People are going to be looking at their watch every couple of minutes, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that was, and that's not what I expect from down this end. Usually there's not enough acts to fill as opposed to too many.
That's it. Like, I often see Graham posting sort of when it's like toaster or anything. Which is a great night. If you're
it's a great night, but that has a tendency to have about 11 or 12 people on if he overbooks it.
But I often see him say like, "Oh, I've had a bunch of people drop out. Like, who can do it?" And he's got to get people from Wales and that.
Yeah, it was.
Whereas in London,
it's for it.
"Oh, I've had people drop out," and before you can finish the sentence, there's 70 odd people going, "I'll do it, please."
Yeah.
I've got a very funny. I'm smashing a pro knot. No, you're not.
Have you ever done?
You are not.
Have you ever done the Holly Bush in Cradley Heath?
No, I don't
outside
think so.
Birmingham. Oh mate, that always has like way too many acts on. They'll have like 10 acts on, and then the last section will be an Edinburgh preview.
Amazing
length of show in this really old pub. That's the guy only opens it up when he wants to put on events, so he doesn't look after it. So it's all mouldy and falling apart as this venue. It's really, and he has like samosas for people backstage and stuff. It's really ridiculous, and the audience are just. If you do a load of cock jokes, they love you. If you don't, they're just going to stare at you and go, "What the hell's this shit?"
Yeah.
And it's just the weirdest. It's so weird gig. I recommend everyone does it, but it's you might not have a good time. There's no reason to think that it should go well.
Yeah. Oh god.
That's like one of those. That one I remember doing. Oh god, years ago. And a mate of mine had like an Edinburgh preview, and there was like a 20-25 minute raffle before the last section to do an Edinburgh preview.
Amazing.
So the last section effectively was like an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
It was really, that one dragged so much.
I have like sort of near me in Essex, there's a few sort of little villages dotted about, and they're the sort of places that now when I say little villages dotted about, I mean it's the sort of place where like in Cornwall you'll go little village to little village to little village, and I've got to wonder if every single one of those villages has a gig the same as the ones in Essex, where at some point there will be a meat raffle.
Right, okay.
So before we bring on our headliner, there's
in Cornwall there was one in I had one in Liscard once. Which Liscard's a fucking shithole. I mean, really awful, just terrible place.
I've never been,
and there's no reason for you to go there. Trust me, unless you need to go there for whatever reason. There's just nothing there for you.
Duly noted.
Yeah. Well, we went there because there was a run of gigs down in Cornwall that Graham had put on, which me and Matt Price were on. And
I saw that.
Yeah, and Matt Price, I always talk about him so highly because this is the gig that just put it in my head for Liscard.
Yeah.
We walked in, awful setup, no sort of like, everyone's just by the bar chatting, blah, blah, blah. There's a meat raffle to start with.
Incredible.
Graham walks in and goes, "I'm not doing this gig," and just immediately bails. And I said, "Well, I'll do it then. I'll open and see what happens." I mean, there are deaths and then there's this. I mean, this is just awful. Heckled by like a dog and people just no interest at all. And then Matt Price goes on and just somehow works the room for 20 minutes and just turns it round in a way that I never thought was possible.
Yeah.
And it's just like this. How the hell have you done this?
Yeah.
It's so gears.
It's a work of art.
And so you do get those ones in Cornwall where there's little villages.
Yeah.
And I think the only time
meat raffles.
The only time I've gigged in Essex was one in Grays.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. I can't remember what the venue is, but
Traitors
it's like...
Gate?
Yes, it is that one. Yes.
Classic.
Yeah, and they
Graham Matthews' classic gig.
Yeah. This was a few years ago, like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, it doesn't run anymore.
No, I've heard it's gone. And because the time I did it, I can't remember what it was, but there was a big screen playing like cricket on in the background.
Fucking hell, what is this? A romantic date?
I mean, pretty much we're just drinking tea and having dinner.
Fair enough.
Probably supposed to do this now.
Who's got a podcast mic?
We are currently recording a podcast.
Oh, I interrupted. Nice.
Yeah, the sound of that gig reminds me of... have you ever gigged with Paul Peary?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yeah, because he is exceptional. He lives near me as well.
Is he round that way? I thought he was further in Midlands.
No, he's in Essex, yeah.
Oh, right.
But I did a gig in Shoebury, like round the corner from where I now live.
Yeah.
And Ash Frith was MC, and he tells his story all the time, so I'm going to finally tell the story as well.
What, you think it's biased in his favour when he tells it?
No, not at all. No, he tells it exactly right, but it's just, I've just not told the story myself. So it's just like a horrible little pub gig, and the guy didn't promote it at all.
Yeah,
and
classic.
we turned up, and he just turned around to his mates that were sitting in the pub, and they're all like pissed up, sort of 40-something, 50-something year old, just geezers who were standing about.
Yeah.
None of them wanted to hear anything, especially not my cerebral nonsense. I had no interest whatsoever. But like, I got away with about 8 to 10 minutes maybe, and then this massive guy that was just an absolute wall of a human being just got up, and I can't remember what he shouted, but he's just shouting stuff like the whole way through, and I was sort of taking the mick out of him in that, and then he just got up and took the mic from me and said, "I'm singing Firestarter now," and then I said, "Okay," and I just sat down and I was done, and I was like, we're not continuing with this. This is, and then he sang Firestarter, and then Ash said, "Right, we're going to have a break, and we may or may not be back in a minute," and Paul was walking around going, "I'm not doing this. This is awful. Like I'm not playing this gig." And he walked outside, and he was just about to leave, and he was going to jump over the wall outside to get to his car, just leave.
Oh, what, to bail?
Yeah, and then last minute he got talked into doing it in sort of one way or another, and then he absolutely ripped it apart.
Oh, really? Shit.
It was amazing. It couldn't be played. That gig could not be played, and he smashed it. He hated it.
Right, yeah.
But he smashed it.
Oh, yeah, of course. But he had the skill set to actually get through it right, yeah.
It's unreal.
It was like, it's a little bit different, but it's where things you think are just totally against you. Where I remember doing, I don't think it's at Tiger anymore, but it was the Leeds Comedy Club that was in, I think it was Tiger, but they changed hands.
I think most places have been a Tiger.
Yeah. But it's changed the venue. I can't remember what it is now. But then so it changed hands, and then they moved it somewhere else. I can't remember.
So it's probably like a Just a Tonic or something.
Yeah. But it's Alan Anson's gig that he had there, and he's just moved it somewhere else in Leeds. But I was on. It was during the World Cup in 2018.
Amazing.
Really hot day. No air conditioning downstairs in the venue. So it had about 70 people there, so it's a decent turnout. We should have had maybe a few more.
Yeah.
All the things are against you. But then I thought, well, if they've turned up for it, they're specifically there for that and nothing else, and all the rest of it. Yeah. And on the bill, Lee Kyle was emceeing, Chris Purchase was on first, and me doing a middle open spot for 10 minutes, and then Tom Horton, I think, was closing it off the top of my head. Yeah, so good I thought, I thought, with good acts here. Certainly I know Lee Kyle really well as well, so I thought, hold we go. And basically everyone's there for it except for about 2 drunks down the front who've just got a massive ice bucket, bottles of champagne type thing, chatting all the way through. And Lee Kyle does a joke at the beginning where he talks about being in relationships, and I can't remember the joke ins and outs, but it's about anal sex, but he says the word hole at some point. I can't remember what the punchline is, so I would be able to deliver it, but I'm just sort of muddling through what it is. But you've got the concept where he just says the word hole.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really get a laugh because the atmosphere is just sort of tainted by these two down the front. But when he says the word hole, the two down the front just shout out, golf! Like, that's got something to do with it. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? You just said hole, so I just thought I'd say golf. I was like, you don't even shout out golf during golf, you shout out four. So that is the level of idiots down the front.
Yeah.
Chris Purchase goes on, and it's really clear that all the attention is being directed towards these two people just because you can't get rid of them. And so, to be fair to him, Chris perseveres all the way through and does about 20 minutes. I think by the last sort of 5 or 6, he's actually got more attention out of all of them and does all right. But it was a real struggle. Like, you could see how hard he was working his arse off. Yeah. In the break before me and Tom are on, those two people leave. And so they're not there. And me and Tom had easily the greatest gigs of our lives. In terms of how... Because you could hear...
Because they cheered up.
Yeah, and the audience, there's like an audible sigh of relief when everyone finds out they've gone. And so it's just those little things that just change. It's so ridiculous. It's absolutely
funny, isn't it? What was... I had... I was doing a show in Edinburgh once, and like it's full room. Must have got about sort of 25-ish minutes in, and there were just two people at the back that like they looked displeased. Everyone else looked like they were enjoying it, but just audibly it was nothing.
Yeah, sure.
Suddenly these two people got up and walked out, but like really politely, and they just said, I sort of spoke to them and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, like it's not for us." And I was like, "Right, fine, whatever, look, cool, see you later." And they left. And then suddenly, the entire room... Like, bearing in mind, they were sitting at the back, so nobody could even see that they were pissed off. But suddenly, the entire room just, like, loved everything that I was saying. I was, what was going on? I was like, what was it about those two? Like, did they hurt you on the way in? It's so weird.
Yeah, they probably had a reputation of just ruining gigs. So they've gone to someone else to ruin half an hour of theirs.
Yeah. It's so odd.
Yeah. People are really weird about what they like, and it's so bizarre. Like, if you look at it on paper, there's no reason that anyone should or shouldn't like anything. Like, even if we to get back to the theme of this podcast, like tea. The idea that people go, "Oh no, I only drink PG. I don't drink Tetleys or whatever." The reality is that they couldn't explain to you with any concise detail. Why it is. It's just the fact of the matter is they happen to do it, and then sort of post-conclusion they have to then sort of rationalise it with a load of sort of pseudo-logic and all the rest of it. And the reality is people just like what they like. It's just a weird thing about humans. They have this sort of like almost like just glitch in their head that
absolutely
switches for some things, not others.
Like, I often talk about how I hate Marmite, and I'll be like, it's horrible, it's horrible. I had it once, it was nasty, like it ruined my day. Looking back at it, I've never had Marmite. I've got no idea, but I just assumed that I don't like it and made up this scenario in my head where I've had it and it ruined my day. And I was like, I can't touch the stuff. It's horrendous.
That's like the thing with any sort of. Like any sort of entertainment, particularly with comedy, but also say music or anything performance, right? People either tell you how much they love it or they tell you how much they hate it. There's very few.
But they won't tell you about how much they hate it. They tell you that it's shit.
So their opinion is the objectively correct one.
It's like people talking about Coldplay and say Coldplay is shit. It's like, no, you don't like Coldplay. No, they're awful. Just no, you don't. I think you'll find millions of people like Coldplay.
And the people that are usually the most animated about why they hate something, or even the most animated about why they like something, actually have never really had, say with music, they've never an instrument in their hand. Or they don't know the ins and outs of what it means to, say, tour or be in a band. Or same with like comedians, like you don't know what it's like to just sit in a coffee shop with a notepad and come up with nothing all day for hours and then have to do a sort of a slightly decent gig, and then the next day you absolutely tear out tons of material, but then try it out and it fails, and then some of it works, all the ups and downs. They don't see any of that, so they don't know, but they'll happily tell you why someone's crap. They'll happily tell you what they do and don't like.
It's funny, isn't it?
So people
are insane. How long have we been talking? We've done half an hour. We've got dinner here, so our battery's doing okay, I think. But we've got dinner here, and we're both sort of tentatively munching upon it. But at some point, I think we both like to dig in properly. So we're just doing a sort of moderately short.
Well, I've got through my tea as well.
So have I.
Just polished it off.
It's very nice. Yeah, smashed straight through it. Thank you very much, Clean Tea Company. Turns out he didn't tell me his name, so I don't feel bad.
Not even in the emails?
Yeah, I checked. It's fine. So you're going to Australia. You're part of that. Who's going? So it's you, Graham, and
Matt Price. As
great.
Because Matt and Graham had known each other for a bit anyway. Because Matt's from Cornwall originally, he can come down and see his dad, and then do loads of gigs for Graham. So he's known him for a while in terms of whatever Graham's been putting on. And then I've gigged with Matt loads of times and saw him only like early this month and sort of thing. And so it was weird because we were talking about wanting to do a Cornish comedy showcase.
Yeah.
In terms of three of us, because I don't think you see a lot of them with like Scottish showcase or Irish or Welsh or blah blah.
Yeah, we're trying to sort out an Essex one, but we always talk about it and just never got around to sorting it out.
Yeah, and with Cornish, I don't think there's been anything like that as well. And it's at least an angle to sort of, it's all about marketability and just selling stuff, all right, and blah blah blah. And we're talking about it and thinking, should we do it in Edinburgh? And I always want to go up to Edinburgh and do stuff.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, the amount of money I can spend probably keep me up there for 4 days or something rubbish. And then we were looking into it, and then Adelaide Fringe. We've only got like a run of 4 days or whatever, but we're going to try and get out there for like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, you can do other shows, right?
Yeah, exactly. So because Matt Price has been out there loads of times, you can actually just go, get these guys on for do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Get a couple of quid here and there. And the price overall for flights and accommodation and booking out shows is way less than going to Edinburgh.
Is it really?
Well, it's not. Maybe in total with flights as well, you're still coming under. But it is shocking how being on the other side of the world for a fringe festival costs less than one in your own country.
Absolutely unreal.
You look at how much accommodation has gone up in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
You just, unless you stay miles outside and get a bus and taxis and stuff all the time, then that feeds back into itself.
It ends up working out the same, doesn't it?
Yeah, unless you can get a deal with something or have your own transport for enough and then walk.
Yeah, but then it's you can't park in Edinburgh.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is that you've still
got to park in Leith and walk in.
Yeah, the closest I ever got to was, it's not a million miles away from Holyrood, but you're having to walk past that. I forget what it's called, but it's like a big park area that you come in from the east side of it. You can park just outside of there before it starts turning into the proper centre of the city, and that's still like a 20-minute walk before we get to Mile or whatever, because it's just ages away. That's the best I could do, and you just think, and for going to Adelaide, I think, well, maybe we might have a different accommodation for the first couple of days when we're recovering from jet lag, effectively. Yeah. But then for the days when we're actually looking to gig, our venue is right outside the accommodation.
Amazing.
So we're not even that hassled by this and the other.
Yeah.
And it is crazy how you do this, and the idea that we can spend a bit of time leading up to it. Because the thing with Edinburgh as well is if you do a full run of like 20 odd days, unless you get there like a week in advance as well, and you can beat the other flyers to get yourself a foothold for things that are coming up 3 or 4 weeks in the future, you've really got to be on it every day all the time. Whilst if you're doing like a 4-day run in Adelaide, I don't know exactly what it's like, but by the sounds of it, we've got a bit more time to actually sort of lean into the festival, as opposed to you're always under the cosh of, I've got to go here, I've got to do this gig, I've got to do my own, I've got a flyer, I've got to meet this person. In Edinburgh, it's so busy all the time. It's just so...
Oh, it's ridiculous.
That's the thing I always hate about even just being up there as a punter. It's just there's so many people and so much options around.
Yeah.
You just get inundated with stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's tough. But what's funny is as well is like other acts in Edinburgh will be sort of going around going, why is no one coming to my show? And it's not that they're not going to your show, it is a little bit, but it's also that they're going to other people's shows.
Yeah, there's a million options. You can't expect everyone to even see yours.
Literally thousands of shows.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I don't even know what it's like with a lot of flyering, but actually I think if you took the stats on how much flyering does on, say, the Royal Mile or Cowgate or Grassmarket or whatever, the number of people that will come in, say, last minute because you've literally just put a flyer in their hand an hour before. I mean, that if you can get that to work each time, or you can exit flyer a show that's coming up round the corner from yours, you're kind of doing all right then. You're kind of on board with it and all the rest of it. But otherwise, it's you've got to hope for the best. You can't really do too much. Unless you've got a massively amazing marketing team and PR huge posters left, right and centre.
You've got to pummel thousands into it.
So you end up losing so massively. And that's why I think with Adelaide, we'll try and run off flyers and posters and do typical things anyway. But we've got so much time of free time leading up to the 4-day run of shows for ourselves that hopefully if we can fill out all of them, you sell it as this sold out first world exclusive show at Fringe, at Adelaide Fringe. You've got an accolade then to actually sort of be proud of because you've had the time to do it well, as opposed to just continually being under the cosh of going. How are we doing? How are we looking?
There's no
forward?
respite. It's just
it's just relentless.
Yeah, and there's, like you say, there's no time to sort of to set yourself up beforehand. It's just. Cool, I'm in Edinburgh. What?
And you don't have, even if it goes really, really well for you, you don't necessarily have enough time to sort of enjoy that and reap the benefits.
You don't
of
get
doing
to reflect on it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, you don't even get to improve on anything half the time because you do what you do and you just go, right, I need to go do 4 other spots and I need to write 10 minutes of new stuff for this gig where no one's going to be. And
and I think by the sounds of it, I mean, certainly when, like lots of podcasts, but particularly if people say... Richard Herring's podcast talk about it a lot with, like, say, Simon Munnery or Stuart Lee or people who were doing it in the 80s type thing and the early 90s. And even I remember going up a couple of years ago and I met Andy Zaltzman at one of his shows afterwards. And he was talking about how in the early days, in like 98, 99 or whatever, he'd do the Edinburgh Fringe and there was no such thing as a free fringe that you could get onto.
Yeah.
So he was just losing thousands of pounds as a nobody with like John Oliver type thing.
Yeah.
And... but it still sounded like there was enough room to breathe, so to speak, because it wasn't inundated and absolutely saturated with comedy all the time. And that people went up with half-written shows, so they'd have half an hour. They
That's what the first week was at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so you actually use the Edinburgh Fringe as like as a stomping ground for improvement, as opposed to going, here's my set hour, take me seriously.
Because it's supposed to be a place to work on your show before you go and tour that show.
Yeah.
But now it's, my show needs to be perfect so I can win awards.
I think someone like Tim Vine does still do that. He goes up with a show, he uses it as a springboard to go into a tour, as opposed to thinking, this is the touring show that I've now brought Edinburgh.
Yeah.
I think, I might be wrong on that front, but...
well, if Tim Vine can do it... Oh God!
Well, he had an absolutely insanely massive poster.
The
year he wasn't even there, type thing.
Yeah,
which got everyone talking about it. But that's the thing, is that marketing and selling yourself and having the right PR people and the right flyers and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like Matt Price did it, I think, last year and had loads of money spent on flyers, but it still didn't work out for him because they were a bit useless or, well, I don't want to land anyone in it, but it sounded like it just. You'd think with the amount of money going into it, this would turn over a huge number of people. It just wasn't working that way, and it's always a risk, no matter how much you put in. Or it's so ridiculous, and that's why looking at, like, I mean, literally a festival on the other side of the world could be more beneficial for you as even just as a selling point if you've done something worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Like it can actually pay off as a good experience.
The thing with those Australian festivals that I've seen as well is they're just great launch pads for more stuff in Australia.
Yes.
Where, like, it's easier to get on TV and like sort of play the bigger clubs and stuff.
But I mean, for me, because
from what it looks like anyway.
For me, I'm not going in it with any real expectation of it leading on to other stuff. Because I know that I'm such a no-name individual who effectively is the resident compere of Cornwall gigs. I mean, that's effectively what I do. And but the idea that it's an experience that, you can stick around and watch other showcases of stuff and go, all right, this is how it's done. And you can actually chat to people, which is effectively what you'd want from something like Edinburgh. But because it's so busy, you don't know where the best place to be, or who's going to be around at any one time. You've got to time everything so perfectly.
Yeah.
It just sounds like such an ordeal.
Last time I went for a sort of extended period of time, because I went up a couple of years ago, like for a couple of days. I couldn't go last year because I was buying a house. So
I can imagine that drained all your money out of you.
Somewhat. So the year before that, when I went up, like I did my show, and I think I don't know, like a few days I did like 2 or 3 other spots, but largely I just hung out, just had a really good time and just saw a bunch of shows. And like I talked to my friends and said, what have you seen that you like? And they say, oh, I've seen this. And I'm like, great, let's go and see that.
Yeah.
And then I had the best time. It's really good. Like, there was no stress.
Yeah. The last couple of times I've been up, I've had more of that sort of experience of just socialising, so to speak. But the first time I went up, I was just effectively an MC for a double-hander show that mates of mine were doing.
Right,
so
okay.
I just basically came on and split them up, as opposed to them introducing each other.
Yeah.
So it was just easy to do, like effectively 5 minutes every day.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing loads of shows, and it was, what year was it? Like 2013. But I remember it distinctly because it was the first year that Ian Cognito had come back after taking like a 15-year break.
Yeah.
Because he was like, oh, it's full of kids. I fucking hate the Fringe. And then he came back for some reason. I don't know why. And he was selling his autobiography, and Graham Wilkes wanted to. Oh, he's here.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
Hello.
Remember that time? Well, I remember going up to Fringe and buying for Graham Ian Cognito's autobiography, which he was selling after his gigs for like £7. And I remember seeing him, and I only had a £5 on me, so I said, "Oh mate, can you give me your autobiography for someone else for a £5?" He goes, "Oh, just fucking have it." He was really pissed off about it, and I felt a bit bad. So on the last day that we were up, I went to his show again, not to go see it, but to see him outside. I was like, "Oh, Ian, I got your autobiography the other day for £2 short. Here's the £2 I owe you. You can have it." And he looked at me with like just his eyes open, and he goes, "You, mate, have almost restored my faith in humanity," which I thought was just such a touching moment. It was really great, and he had like a 2-pint glass of Guinness with him all the time, type thing. And those are the memories I had of Edinburgh, way more than which agents I've met or all the people that you're selling yourself to. Those were way more important to me.
Yeah,
I just loved them so much.
Yeah, better memories.
He also wrote in
totally.
that book to Graham, you.
I got to sign it. Yeah.
Which was great. I thought,
Amazing.
I was just checking in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
How are you, Graham?
I'm alright. Well, I shall leave you guys. I'm very sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
I'm sure
worries.
Samson's already done that once.
Well, yeah, we've had a few.
He came in and said, "Who's got the podcast mic?" I was like, "Well, actually."
Conveniently.
Cool, right. Catch you in a bit.
Yeah, good, Graham.
That was Graham Wilkes, everybody.
Yeah, the person putting on the show that we're about to do.
I may not leave that in. I don't know. I remember doing a podcast very briefly, where I couldn't justify it because it basically just turned into ComCompod. Right. Okay.
Basically, a lot of conversations I think between comedians do that. But it was talking about bad gigs. So like we were talking about, say, Liscard or Traitors Gate, and loads of memories. And I remember having a couple of mates of mine who were knocking around like York and Leeds where I was at the time, and a mate of mine, he had a gig in Stoke or like Burslem or somewhere around there,
right?
So but a rough gig where there's a lot of drunk people in, and it's something ridiculous happened where a bloke grabbed his balls because it's part of it was about audience interaction where you had to get him on, and like after, I can't remember the real premise of it, but you had to get this guy to really sort of like make contact with him. So this guy, because he thinks it's hilarious, he's going to grab his knob. Yeah. And because he's effectively on stage, you can't relinquish the territory. You've got to still be in command of gigs. So he let this guy do this for like 30 seconds, a minute or whatever.
Jesus.
And he's telling me the story. I was just thinking, this is ridiculous. And then he revealed that in that gig, his mum was in the audience watching it. Oh, wow. And I burst out laughing and I had to just stop. And I edited out about 3 or 4 minutes of me just cackling because there's no way you can keep that in just a conversation.
Jesus.
So I know what you feel like, where you need those sort of good cut-off points of like a big clap to know where there should be an edit point and stuff.
Oh, that's funny. Do you know the Natis? Like,
I know of them,
showcase that I did it once and I got introduced as CD Abez. Which is not my name.
No, I was going to think how they've got that so wrong.
But like, I knew sort of 90% of the acts that were on, and they were all laughing. And I say 90% because I think there were 100. And there was a guy who was doing a bit, and I ran into him recently actually because he said, "Oh, all right, mate, we met ages ago." I was like, "Oh, did we?" Like, I didn't remember him. It was years ago.
No, I never remember people at all.
And I'm normally quite good at remembering people, but sometimes, But he just said, "Oh, yeah, we met ages ago. I was that guy that got put in a headlock on stage," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So there's some guy, and he's doing a bit, and he asked a guy to come up on stage, like just some random audience member. Bearing in mind that at the Natis, it's like 27,000 acts, 5 judges, and 2 audience members. And this guy came up on stage, and absolutely mad. And as soon as he got up there, I think that's what it was, he asked him to take his jumper off for him.
Right.
And instead of doing that, he just put him in a headlock.
Right.
And then they were basically fighting on stage. And like, he's trying to push him off, just going like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he's just like getting him in a headlock. And we're all sitting there going, should we get... Like,
So the actors
is this
derailed
part of it?
immediately.
Like, we weren't sure if this was like, if they were in it together or what. If he was in trouble, and he was in trouble, it turns out.
Yes,
It's absolutely insane. Yeah. And he invited that to happen, so...
Well, yeah, but that's the thing with a lot of gigs down in Cornwall, where before, like, emceeing a lot of these, I'd have been absolutely shit scared and so terrified of talking to people, blah, blah, blah. But now you've seen completely everything under the sun.
Yeah.
Like this gig we're about to do, this one I'm holding out a bit of hope that actually the right sort of people are going to turn up, because we've actually promoted it a lot, so I think the sort of people that want to come to it will. And there's not just going to be, like, stragglers and... absolute nut jobs type things. But I remember the one, I can't remember which one it was.
Everyone
like
in the bar so far seems nice. So everyone in the bar so far seems nice.
It could be a really nice gig, and it has been on some gigs a lot of times. But I remember, I think it was the fourth one, but it was the one that Ignacio Lopez was headlining, and basically a load of the audience just did bumps of coke in the toilets throughout the whole gig.
Classic.
Not even like they were doing it during the break. That annoying thing where people get up out of their seats and you think, oh, they're going to go get a pint. No, these people were going to do a line. Type thing. That's the sort of people who I don't think have been back since, because they've realised how much of an arsehole they've all been. Well, I'm hoping anyway. But that was like this kind of thing of like, I thought I was totally prepared for gigs until these sort of ones.
Yeah.
And then you see something new and even more, and so it just desensitisses you to everything else. But I don't think I would probably be able to work too well if someone grabbed my penis or put me in a headlock. I think that would probably be out of my depth.
I don't imagine I'd react too politely.
No, I'd tell them to fuck off immediately.
I'm a polite guy. I'm not a fan of confrontation, but I will tell someone to...
No, I avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
Literally anything I can do.
Yeah, that is good grief. Well, fingers crossed that doesn't happen tonight. And
I'm almost certain it won't.
I'm opening, and you're warming the crowd up for me. So
usually, yeah. If
it goes wrong, it's your fault. I think that's what.
Yeah. I've had that so many times where I've felt like, oh, I've totally done a bad job of this. Well, fuck them. That's really what it is. Not like Toast, where they lap up everything.
Yeah, they love everything. Even when they're being weird, they love it. And they're often weird. I was emceeing a gig once, just in Southend, but it was a bunch of people that I knew, but I think they were all on coke and sort of various things.
Around that sort of area, like Essex area, I would not be surprised if that's every gig.
It's reasonably common. And but I was trying to talk to the audience, and they decided they hated me, even though I knew a lot of them. But
that's a really bad sign.
I don't think that was why, but they were just they were being horrible. And they were really hard to deal with, and they just sat there staring at me like they wanted me to die.
Yeah.
And I was dying. But all of the acts were having a really good time, so I just ended up being on stage saying, "Hey, I know you all hate me, but I've got to fill up some time, so I'm going to carry on talking for 5 minutes."
That's very much what that Traitors Gate gig felt like.
Yeah.
Where it was like I said, there was a big screen with the cricket on.
Yeah.
Like One Day International, which had to be turned off for the gig to
start. They don't like it when that happens.
No, so they really did not care.
I did the first one of those gigs, and we had to turn the darts off, and they were livid.
Yeah, and then there's people in that side bit playing pool.
Yeah.
Where there's no sort of barrier to drown out the sound of clacking.
Yeah.
And all the rest of it. And I remember a really drunk woman who was like the sort of person who just answers back everything, the sort of centre of attention, like just a typical drunk who thinks it's about them.
Yeah.
And she was just every act just spoke to her.
Yeah.
There was no point in doing stuff because it would ruin the rhythm. Your only chance was just to mock people in the room. That's all you could do.
Yeah.
Blokes at the bar, women down front, people playing pool. They're the targets, not jokes. They don't want jokes.
At that gig, some guy who had half his ear bitten off.
Jesus.
Came up to me and my mate afterwards, and he just said, "You know what you boys need to do? You just need to take the piss out of the audience a bit more." And we were like, "Okay, thank you very much."
I don't think I would want to take the piss out of someone who's had their ear bitten off.
No.
Because their track
But-
record to me suggests that I'm not going to like come up with 2 ears.
Well, no. But you could also look at that and say he's obviously not very good at fighting because he's missing part of his ear. So maybe the odds are, it's not too bad.
I think with that gig, there's a couple of gigs as well where there's like a string of St George's flags outside the pub, not even on the inside. They showcase on the outside.
Yeah.
There was one in Hull that I remember doing.
And a lot of British Bulldog tattoos.
Yeah, totally. Where it's that. And I remember doing one in Hull where it was in a rugby club. And it's quite a nice gig, and actually the guy who runs it actually runs quite nice gigs actually, and I didn't think it would be a bad one. But before I was on first, the MC was going, "Oh, give me a cheer if you support the rugby club," and they go, "Woo!" Give me a cheer if you're in Hull locally, woo! Give me a cheer if you support the troops, woo! And like the biggest cheer I've ever heard in my life, and I immediately thought, I'm going to die. There's nothing in my act.
But like literally.
Well, yeah, possibly. But I only thing that I could salvage was like just having a go at some dumb kid down the front who was on his phone, like so he was a worthy target in my eyes. Because anything with subtlety and anything that required thought, I was just I bailed on and just did. I wouldn't say the hackiest, but certainly the easiest go-to responses to this kid. Yeah. And, I survived that one. Well done. I had an all right gig there. Because that cheer, the gig hadn't been going for 2 minutes, and I already knew this is not my crowd. I just knew immediately. I just thought this is not for me.
Not ideal. That's what that is.
Yeah. It was. Oh, mate. It was a fun gig though, but it's just I've never been more sure of something in my life. That's how clear it was.
This is not for me.
No, God no.
Yeah. Good grief. Well, fingers crossed.
I was just saying,
this
I've
gig
still not touched my pie.
It's not going to be that way. Yeah, that's it. I think my burger's going to probably be cold by now. It's warm. It's warmish. So I think it's time to eat. I have actually got a couple of listeners in Australia.
Oh, wonderful.
Because Cole Donnelly was my first guest.
Yes.
And then about 3 weeks later, he went to Australia. And all of a sudden, there were quite a reasonable amount of downloads. And then when he went to Australia, there were like seven more. So I was like, cool. So, and now I've got regular listeners in Australia. So
I would think that's a good thing.
Where are you on?
Well, this is why my prep of being able to plug stuff is quite inept, because I don't.
You don't know.
No, I know what days it should be between the 12th and the 15th of March.
Okay. Do you know what it's called?
In Adelaide. Yeah, it'll be the Cornish Comedian Showcase, possibly with Long Dark as part of the subtitle, because we wanted to get in on the idea that Poldark apparently is a BBC show that's hugely popular in Australia.
Oh, is it really?
Which is a Cornish-based show in like the 18th century.
Filmed down the road.
Yeah, and so we thought, can we have a tie-in with that, or at least just sort of latch onto it? So I said, well, why not just Long Dark or something like that? So we were going to call the show that, but then there's some technicalities on Facebook because it's not parody, and so we just. You can't use it under the artistic right of parody, which I think you can get away with, but because it's not that, we can't. We might be able to mention it in like tweets and stuff, like hashtag Loldark.
Can you not just do a joke about Poldark?
Yeah, we can talk about it, but I don't think we can call it that because it's advertising based on something that isn't ours.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So you might be able to find it through that hashtag, but the Cornish Comedian Showcase at the Adelaide Fringe, you look for that, you'll find it.
There you go. What dates? Do you know?
12th to 15th of March.
Yeah.
And it's on at.
Somewhere.
Sometime.
Yeah, somewhere at some time.
Yeah, it's in a hotel. And they probably only have like 2 hotels, not Adelaide. I
wouldn't have thought they've got
in it. Yeah, exactly. So you probably find it quite easily, and it's on. I think it's on later in the evening, like 8ish, 8:30, something like that.
So look out for that.
You should be able to find it easily if you're looking for.
Good. And I'll try and find out the actual information.
In post, you can actually put this
on the. I'll put it on the podcast description. And speaking of social tags, what you got?
I'm on like Instagram, Twitter. Facebook page. Daniel Triscott will be in all of them. Sometimes it's D Triscott jokes. So at D Triscott jokes for Instagram.
Go on, let's do it specifically. Instagram.
Instagram. I'll tell you what. I'll get it out because they are slightly different.
Right.
But I've tried to unify them all so that I'm not haplessly.
I'm quite lucky. I'm the only side Eves. So.
Yeah. Well, I would have thought that actually, but I think Daniel is fairly. I think because I know there's another like there's some bricklayer in Plymouth who's got the same name as me.
Oh, really?
It just makes it difficult. Yeah, Instagram is at D Triscott jokes.
Cool.
So D Triscott jokes.
D Triscott jokes.
Yeah, and then Twitter, I believe, is exactly the same for D Triscott jokes. And then Facebook is Daniel Triscott. It's just a comedy page.
Cool.
So you should be able to find me through there. It's pretty easy.
Excellent. Right, I mean, I'll put that all on the description as well.
Unless you want a bricklayer, in which case it's awful.
Yeah. have a word with him. Probably
I
good
should
rates.
do a tie-in. So then when they come to my page, they go, "Oh, do you need wall building?
Yeah.
20% off."
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. See, that's why I don't do the Fringe, because I'm bad at marketing.
Well, I mean, you've got an angle now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to have to do some of his gigs. Oh, people are filling up. Sorry, I've just looked into our venue and people are actually filling up the seats.
Oh,
Thank
sweet.
God.
Doors haven't even opened yet, have they?
I think they might have opened, but we're not due to start for a while. So
Sweet.
It's all
Got
good
time
by
to eat
me.
this burger.
Yeah,
I've got time for a
loads
shirt.
of times. Yeah, awesome.
Wicked. Well, thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's been
Lovely.
very enjoyable
Nice
indeed.
tea, nice conversation.
Lovely tea. Thanks very much to the Clean Tea Company once again.
Thumbs up from me.
Yeah, thumbs up from us both.
Awesome.
You can find them at thecleanteacompany.uk on Instagram and thecleanteacompany.co.uk on the World Wide Web. Don't forget to get in touch with me. It's tpartypod@gmail.com. That is the letter tpartypod@gmail.com. Funnily enough, what's weird, there's a lot of American podcasts that are called like the Tea Party Podcast or Tea Party.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
And it's a lot of them are sports based.
I thought they were going to be political.
There's a couple of political ones. There's quite a few like American football based ones.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I found one today so my Instagram tag is at tpartypod.
Yeah.
And there's one on there which is at Tea Party Podcast. And I was like, and they got the logo's like a cup of tea, and I was like, oh, well, it's going to be all about tea. It's about Taylor Swift.
Right.
What? What is that? It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, that's bad advertising.
Yeah. But like I've got a few American listeners, and I wonder if they're just trying to find stuff out about
It was
Taylor
like,
Swift.
It was like years ago when they started. Not to drag on the podcast any longer, but I think Slipknot.com was a knitting site. So the band had to have like slipknot1.org or something along those lines.
Oh, that's so funny.
So loads of people who were new metal fans were turning up to this knitting site for Slipknots, for tutorials.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So I know it happens a lot.
That's funny. What a great note to end on. Thanks for coming on, man. Let's have a good gig.
Thanks very much.
I'll say in the intro whether or not it was indeed a good gig.
Yeah, in post you can let us know how it goes.
Fingers crossed.
Awesome, right.
See you later, guys.
Cheers, man. Have
Thanks.
a good one.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
So that was Daniel Triscott. Lovely chat. I think you'll agree. I think we got away with it sound-wise without having my laptop on me because I'm an idiot. So don't forget to follow him on Instagram and Twitter at dtriscottjokes. That is DTRISCOTTJOKES. You know how to spell jokes, I hope. And on Facebook, just find him as Daniel Triscott. He's got a page on there, so give that a follow. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. You can find all the social links, and that, again, is at tpartypod, so at the letter T, Party Pod, on Instagram and Twitter. I think if you put in facebook.com/tpartypod, you can also find the Facebook page. Can't remember exactly. And if you want to get in touch and comment on anything that we've said, or suggest comedians you think would be good on the podcast, or suggest tea companies to get involved with, give us a shout at tpartypod@gmail.com. Again, letter tpartypod@gmail.com. And I'll put links in the description. Thanks very much for listening. I'll see you next time. Oh, I mean, I've got many recordings actually lined up for once. So yeah, it feels good. I've got a few coming in the next few weeks. Some very interesting characters, some incredible comedians, and other such folk. So yeah, you're in for a treat. You're welcome. Until the next time, be good. I love you. Drink tea. Bye.